Your time is important to me, so here it is. Skyward Sword HD is 100% worth your time and your money. I'm D-Rock, and hopefully with this video, I can change your perspective and shine in a more positive light on this whole, quote, is the game worth it debate going around in the Zelda community. I can't think of a better way to frame this, so I'm just going to say it bluntly. Do not base your opinion of the graphics on this remaster based on trailers or on other gameplay you have seen on the internet. If you truly love and care about the Zelda franchise, or even trust my opinion for that matter, please invest your money into picking this game up and witnessing the graphical improvements with your own eyes. I'm telling you, man, you just can't tell how much Nintendo changed with the graphics until you actually play through the game on your own. I can't emphasize this enough. It's truly breathtaking. By the way, if you go to Walmart and purchase the game physically, it's actually only $49. At least it was where I live in the United States, so you're not actually paying full price. I just had to make sure I mentioned that. This is the first Zelda game that has a legit frame rate of 60 frames per second, and man, is it buttery smooth. Again, this is something that you just will not notice watching my videos on YouTube. As you are exploring Skyloft, or flying through the sky on your Crimson Red Loftwing, or even fighting enemies like Moblins or Lizalfos on the surface below the skies, it just makes gameplay that much more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Before Skyward Sword HD, I never really understood just how much of a difference 60 frames per second was compared to 30, because it's just something that I never really thought was that noticeable, unless of course you're playing a computer game, right? Which is something that I never do. But anyway, Nintendo just nailed this 100%. There are certain spots in the original, like when you get to the Lanayru Desert and you smack the time shift stones, for example, where the game literally skips frames for whatever reason. Maybe because of the limited hardware the Wii had during its lifespan. I don't know. The point being is that in the remaster, it's non-existent. Every cutscene, every single sword swipe, every interaction with the NPCs was just flawless. The attention to detail here is just indescribable for me as a die-hard Zelda fan, and it is extremely annoying when I hear people that just bash this game because it's not worth picking up or wasting your time on because of the price point, when they haven't even taken the time to look past that and just play the freaking game. Heck, I guarantee half the people that are part of this hate culture on Skyward Sword HD would change their minds instantly if they would just let their ego go, sit down, and just play the game. Just play it. Please. Skyward Sword, because of this remake and just how overall beautiful it is literally now my favorite game in the Zelda series. Sorry, Ocarina of Time, you are now number 2. Originally, before I picked up my own copy, sure, I had my minor doubts, right? I mean, probably just like you do now. Totally understand that. After playing through the game, though, there is zero doubt. Pick it up. Trust me. The quality of life changes to Skyward Sword HD, just those words in general to me are a dramatic understatement how much this game is different compared to the original. The button-only controls are quite nearly perfect. Literally, maybe the only issue I had with them is the fact that sometimes when I had to use the free roam camera, it was slightly annoying to have to hold the L trigger down, but honestly, after a couple of hours of playing, this was no longer an issue as muscle memory just completely took over. I loved it. By the way, how low-key was it that Nintendo just blatantly forgot to announce this massive change? The free roam camera. To me, a free roam camera is a huge change, especially coming from just using Z to face forward, you know? It changes everything, especially as a content creator. From being able to pan the camera at any point in time to take in the beautiful scenery, or on the creator side, being able to pan the camera for that silky smooth B-roll for videos. It was amazing, and I was really shocked how Nintendo didn't think this was important enough to be considered a, quote, quality of life improvement. Maybe they wanted it to be a surprise, I don't know, I really can't think of anything else to be honest. This one dramatic change to Skyward Sword quite literally changed the way I played through the game, and to me, that's saying something, right? I started my first run with button-only controls and I see no reason or want to use the motion controls. I mean, it's really fun on the Pro Controller. I have no issues with it at all. I do really appreciate that Nintendo made this an option because this was easily one of the biggest complaints the community had, and they listened to their fans and fixed it. So there's really no room for people to complain that Nintendo doesn't care, because clearly they do. I have only just talked about the addition of the button controls, but there's so much more that they fixed. One of the biggest changes that I loved so much was how Nintendo fixed the dialogue issue, where every time you picked up a collectible like a Dusk Relic, for example, you would get an explanation of what that item was. Like, I get it, I guess you want the player to be informed, but after over 60 plus hours of gameplay, I think you and I understand what the point was, right? This was huge. It made the remaster feel like a completely different game as far as pacing goes. Again, something you won't have a perspective on if you are taking the route of just straight bashing the game before you even give it a chance. Optional help from Fi was something else that they changed with this remaster of Skyward Sword. This honestly wasn't a very big deal for me personally. Fi never really bothered me as much as you, most likely. I know it's very odd, right? I don't know, man. I just felt like she was just as important to the story as any of the other companions were. And honestly, I think Tattle or Navi were way worse as far as annoyance goes. Fast forwarding through dialogue, skipping the beginning tutorials, as well as skipping cutscenes throughout the game are some more changes to the game that played a role in the gaming experience for sure. If this was your first time playing Skyward Sword, I don't see how this could help your experience if you are wanting to play for the story and to understand what's going on. However, on the other side of things, this is huge if you are in the speedrunning community. I mean, that totally makes sense to me, and I respect that 100%. Finally, autosave was introduced. Honestly, this was like the least exciting improvement for me. I mean, if I'm being real, I totally forgot it was a thing other than the fact of seeing it on top of my load save file every time I went to save my progress. My overarching point here is that this is more than a remaster, and the only way you will understand that and have a different perspective is by investing in the game with your money. It's literally a completely different game. Most of these quality of life changes made the game just so much better. I felt myself literally smiling through every single cutscene, especially the interactions between Link and Zelda. Man, it was just too cute, and I'm literally getting emotional talking about it. I'm not crying, you're crying. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is an emotional ride. I hope you're buckled in. That is if you take my advice and just give this game an hour of your time. I talked about this in a theory video I did a couple weeks back now. If interested, you can check it out in the cards in the top right corner of this video once this video is done. But after playing through Skyward Sword HD, I have zero doubts that this game and Breath of the Wild 2 will be intertwined with each other. There are just so many similarities, it's just unreal. I don't want to spoil things, just in case you still haven't played the game, but the sky travel, how Skyloft looks so similar to the islands in the sky that we see in the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, how there are literally areas from Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2 that are in Skyward Sword HD. For example, the springs that we see in Breath of the Wild. I could be wrong, but don't these images look extremely and oddly similar to each other? This also ties in with the sequel to Breath of the Wild because, well, Nintendo did mention that Breath of the Wild 2 would include the same map, so odds are we'll be seeing a lot of the same areas, right? I sure hope so. Can you imagine being able to fly through Breath of the Wild 2 on Loft Wings? Picture it, it would be so cool. Time travel is pretty much all but confirmed here, so it is very possible that these beautiful creatures could make a comeback. Being able to dive off an extremely high island in the sky and call upon our trusty Loftwing, this would be so epic. I covered Loftwings being in Breath of the Wild 2 in way more detail in a video I did a couple weeks ago. Again, you can check that out in the cards of this video, but to touch on how Breath of the Wild 2 and Skyward Sword HD will be connected briefly, Breath of the Wild 2 will be the ending of everything that has happened up to this point. This will be Nintendo's opportunity to start fresh. No more on that, go check out that other video after this one. I think another possible connection between the two games is that before they released Breath of the Wild 2, they wanted the that are newer to the series to see where everything began as far as the creation of the Master Sword, and why Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf continue to be reborn over and over again. Makes sense, right? So overall opinion, I think you must get Skyward Sword HD, if for no other reason to form your very own opinion and not rely on others who haven't even played the game's opinion to form yours. Does that make sense? I promise you will enjoy this game, you just have to have an open mind. If you found value today, give this video a like, and if you are new, subscribe, turn on all notifications for more Zelda videos. Hey, before you click off this video, why don't you just click here instead so we can hang out some more. I appreciate your time. Let's talk soon.